Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to episode number 208 of Mike in the Midwest, our mini podcast for the amazing patrons just like you of the Be Our Guest podcast. Of course, my name is Mike Rallman, host of the Be Our Guest podcast. You can find me on the socials at Be Our Guest Mike. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. And of course, the place you can find me the most and the most accessible is over in the Be Our Guest podcast Clubhouse, which everybody has access to. Just go over to beourguestpodcast.com/clubhouse and you will find me hanging out there all the time with so many, over 1,000 listeners of the show. We have a great time. It's like our cheers. Everybody knows your name. Everybody hearts your posts. And we have a great time just sharing life, sharing our Disney experiences, and more than Disney experiences. We share what's going on with our hometowns. I posted my picture last night of cruising through DQ with my beautiful bride, and you didn't see Riley. She was hanging out in the back seat of the Jeep, but it was kind of hard to get her in the shot there. But we were picking up our, Saturday night ice creams and just living life. And, we post about Disney. We post about what we're just doing around the world. We have folks there from Scotland, folks there from Australia, folks there from England. It's a worldwide thing, and it's great that we have a community there. And just so much fun. So coming over to beourguestpodcast.com/clubhouse. But you're go too far on today's show. I have to apologize right off the bat. I've been having a little bit of an issue with my asthma. I have asthma. I don't know if I talk about it very much, but I do. I've had it since I was a child. It rears its head every now and then. In the last couple of days, it's kind of reared its head back, and I'm struggling. I was able to run yesterday, thank goodness, but today and after yesterday's run, man, I was in bad shape, and today I couldn't even go for my walk. That's how bad I'm struggling. So, and I got like a cold or something on top of it. So I want to get in here, but my voice is terrible. Um, so I'm doing what I can. I'm trying as hard as I can. So I'm, what do they say? You're playing with an injury. I think that's what I'm podcasting with an injury today. So we're here. I don't know how long this show will be if my voice holds out because I've been coughing and stuff like that. So I apologize. I know I sound like a frog and this sounds terrible. And for a podcast, that's like the worst thing ever is to have a terrible voice. So I'm a couple hours late. I've been trying to let everything sound better. Pam's like, "You going to do Mike in the Midwest?" I'm like, "Yes." I'm letting the Dayquil try to do its thing. So hopefully I don't punish our patrons because they're my best friends. I want to give my best effort, but the time had come because I got to get things ready if we're going to do the live call-in show tonight. So I had to get this done this afternoon. But hope you're doing well wherever the show finds you today. Hope you're having a great week. I titled the show a bunch of stuff because we're just going to hit a few topics. Nothing serious. Just want to give you something here on the feed to have for this week. Just because I appreciate you guys so very much. What's going on here in the Be Our Guest Podcast Studios? It's just the middle of summer. Not a whole lot. We're back, kind of getting back in the groove after being on the wonderful Disney Fantasy a couple of weeks ago. God, that was so much fun. When you go on a cruise, you are just spoiled. Not only with your dining, but with how they take care of your stateroom. You never have to make your bed. Every night when you go to bed, there's chocolate on your pillow. You have a towel animal sitting there. Sometimes it's a stingray, sometimes it's a crab. You get to guess what it is every night. Your bed's made up in the afternoon, then it's made up differently at night. You have a serving team that's always taking care of you. You have great entertainment. 10 o'clock, let's go to the tube. Let's see what game show we playing tonight. And then you have an entertainment at 10:30. You have some kind of an adult variety show. I miss that. So much fun. And I'm so excited for the podcast cruise because we have less than a year till we go on the Magic. So that's going to be fun. So at least we have that to look forward to. But July of next year seems like it's so far away at this point, but it'll get here, right? I mean, the fantasy cruise got here eventually, so we'll make it happen. But man, I cannot wait to get back on a Disney Cruise Line ship because I can tell you, I've always said this. There is no better vacation than a Disney cruise. They spoil you. It's like going to a deluxe hotel, having signature dining every night, world-class entertainment when you go to the shows, and you go to beautiful places. I mean, you just go to great places and have amazing entertainment when you're in the ports. And those times in between when you're just going to have quick service food, when you're going to grab a slice of pizza or a burger or a wrap, or getting a soft serve ice cream up on deck 9, deck 11, whatever it is, or riding the aqueduct or the aquadunk, or going to O'Gills or 687 if you're on the Dream, or whatever it is. The small times on the Disney Cruise Line ships are the best times. It's not about the destination at all with Disney Cruise Line. I think it's true with any cruise line, right? I don't think it's necessarily about the destination. I think it's about the journey. It's about the experience on board. And I've been just looking over the pictures that we took and the videos that we took on our cruise, and just reliving it time and time again. And I wish I would have taken more. I thought I took a ton of pictures, but I wish I would have taken more. I really fell in love with St. Thomas. I really fell in love with Tortola. Those islands in the Eastern Caribbean were beautiful. And the people we met, the team that took us zip lining for 3 hours when we were in Tortola, they were such kind folks. They joked with us. They were just cool people. And the folks we met on the beach at Emerald Beach in St. Thomas, they were super cool to us too. And you come into these, you meet these people for a couple hours, and then you leave, and they meet new people the next day. They do leave a mark on you because they were kind to you. And I mean, that's their business, right? The tourism is how they make their living. But it is kind of interesting how that works. And my wife and I had this discussion, Pam and I always got to clarify with Pam with this podcast, because we got podcast Pam and we got my wife Pam. But there's such a dynamic. And if you've cruised, I know Dennis will probably chime in about this next week, and I appreciate Dennis always chiming in, is that there's such a two-part perspective when it comes to cruising, I think, for a lot of us, right? So when we're sitting on the cruise, and I had this discussion with Pam, we were going on our walk a couple of nights ago, and I don't know how it got brought up, but so we were on an Eastern Caribbean 7-night cruise, and I told her, I didn't tell her this during the cruise. I just brought this up on our walk a couple of nights ago. She didn't even know this till a couple of nights ago. But I said, I started to get this little bitty sad feeling in the pit of my stomach as soon as we left St. Thomas during the cruise, because I knew that the ship was now heading north. I never said it to anybody. I never told Mallory or Zoe or Pam. I didn't want anybody else to get, bummed out. Like I wasn't bummed, but I knew at that point we were no longer going south. Because I'm very much like I like to know like the navigational stuff of the cruise. I'm always taking pictures of the TV at night on the bridge channel that shows like where you are, how deep the sea is, what the winds are, like how many miles you've traveled since your last ports. I love that stuff. I have so many screenshots of that on my phone. But as soon as I knew that we had reached the maximum destination from Port Canaveral and we were now heading back towards Port Canaveral, even though we still had a sea day and we had Castaway Cay to come before we got back to Canaveral, all of a sudden I started getting a little pit in my stomach, and I shouldn't be that way, right? We still had a lot of fun because we had another sea day. I love sea days, are my favorite. Castaway Cay is amazing. We had the best Castaway Cay day, but I knew we were headed home. We were headed back toward the mothership. And I didn't like that. Like the whole time we were headed south, I was just party. Like I was like, yes, we're heading away. This is great. But as soon as I knew that we left St. Thomas, I knew we were heading home. And so I was a little sad. Still had fun those other days. Don't worry, I still had a lot of fun those other days, but it was one of those things, right? But when you're thinking about a cruise, right? The thing, we had this discussion, I think our second to last night, we were eating at Royal Court, that for us as passengers, we're thinking, oh man, it's the end of a week of just fun eating and having entertainment. It's our third night at Royal Court, or it's our second night at Animator's Palette, what have you. It's that, there's a finite amount of experiences on the ship. We've had our drawing night at Animator's Palette. We've had our night where, this happened. We've had our pirate night and so forth. But when you think about it from the serving team's point of view, it never ends, right? I mean, Saturday, because Saturday for the fantasy is like the embarkation, debarkation day, because it's 7-night cruises. It just flips over. It starts right over. And so as sad as this sounds, that Saturday that we got on, we were so excited to get into our stateroom 7614. Like, we had to leave that next Saturday morning bright and early, grab our breakfast, and boom, we're out of there. Within 4 or 5 hours, there was another family that was in our stateroom doing the exact same thing we were doing exactly 1 week prior. They were so excited. They walked through that same door and they said, "Look at this stateroom. It is so cool. It's big. It's got these awesome beds. Look at this view out of veranda." And that was us exactly a week before. And you don't think about that. But for the serving team and the person who was awesome, who made up our stateroom host, like, it just never stopped, right? I mean, like, we had a start and a finish line exactly 1 week. But those teams, it just goes and goes. And I don't think a lot of times that we think about that. I didn't think about it very much, except for when we had that discussion at dinner. It was our second to last night. And it is kind of incredible. I mean, of course, they're on contracts of 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. So there's a finite amount, but I mean, it's definitely not as short term as we are for a week. There were a couple of people doing back to back that we talked to, but it is interesting. It goes so fast too when you're on a cruise. So enjoy every minute. First time cruisers, 'cause I know we have a lot of folks out there that are cruising for the first, second, or third time. Enjoy those minutes. I mean, don't rush from thing to thing. Sit down, read a book, grab a scone and a Cove Cafe. Take the small moments. Take a nap on deck 4 chairs, but enjoy the moments. Get up and see that sunrise. Stay up late to see the sunset. There's nothing better. There's nothing better. Anyway, so that's what's going on around here. We're just thinking back on how wonderful the cruise is. Now it's been a week back, and we're getting back into the routine of having dinner, our fancy dinners back at LS Teca Mexican restaurant. We're going through Dairy Queen. We went through Dairy Queen last night. Not bad. I posted a picture on Instagram a few minutes ago. It wasn't the Deck 11 soft serve machine on the Disney Fantasy, but it was my Oreo Cupfection from Dairy Queen, which is my alternative to the peanut butter parfait, which I've kind of switched out on lately. And Pam had her Nutter Butter. No, she got the one of the month. I can't remember the Blizzard. So, can't complain. We got to go through in the Jeep. It was a nice night. So, you do what you can. If you enjoy every day where you are, you're winning life. You can't be on the Disney Fantasy every day, right? You wouldn't appreciate it. You got to come home for those other 51 weeks of the year. You get to work and do something you love. That's what I get to do. I get to do this podcast. I get to create vacations for folks. I don't get to create the vacations. I shouldn't say that. I get to play a very small part in pushing some buttons to help people have great vacations. I'm very honored to get to do that. But for those 51 other weeks where I'm not traveling, I'm very blessed to get to do what I do. And then during that 1 week where I get to sail on the cruise, man, I'm super lucky, because a lot of people don't get to do that. I get that. Of the people in the world, if you look at how many people in the world get to sail on a ship like a Disney Fantasy, or like Scott got to go on Anthem of the Seas, whatever it is, when you get to go to places like Animal Kingdom Lodge or Beach Club or Pop Century, if you're one of the lucky people that get to do things like that, we got to stop and say, when you look at the population of the world that gets to do things like this, that get to go places like the Magic Kingdom and walk through Cinderella Castle, or go to Disneyland and ride It's a Small World, or, just think about that. Most people in the world are never going to be fortunate enough to have these experiences. And most of us have had these experiences multiple times. We are very lucky. And I never take that for granted. And I've got to run like races through Cinderella Castle. I've got to cross finish lines. And like, I've got to cross finish lines and high five Mickey Mouse at the finish line one time at a Princess Half Marathon weekend. He was just standing there like in his royal, like, Prince gear, and I gave him a high five, got a picture. I couldn't believe it. I mean, we have all probably had experiences at the Disney destinations that we can't believe. So at this point, when I think about things like that, I'm thinking, I'm like playing with house money. I've had so many cool experiences that I'm just going to appreciate every time I get to go. So I'm not sad that the fantasy cruise is over. Well, I am sad the fantasy cruise is over. I'd like to be back on it today. Don't get me wrong, because it's back on the Eastern Run right now. I'd love to be back on that ship. But I'm happy that it happened. I'm very lucky because most people are never going to get on that ship. And I've been on that ship twice now and had an amazing, I've been on this ship 14 days. That's pretty sweet. So I cannot complain. Anyway, let's get to the feedback from last week. Dennis, speaking of Dennis, he's here and he says, welcome back, Mike. I was indeed nodding along as you extolled the virtues of cruising with Disney. This episode made me homesick for another cruise. Oh, man. Dennis, I probably just did it to you again. Sorry about that. I too enjoyed the tastings aboard the ships. My favorites are the stem to stern wine tasting and the chocolate and liqueur tasting. My wife wants to do that one. That's on our next cruise for sure. Truth be told, I go to any of the tastings just to listen to the host talk about whatever it is we are drinking. It is all fascinating. 100% agree, because I am not a drinker at home. I only drink on the cruises, to be honest. And I love learning about it because, for one, the guy that we had from Jamaica in the martini and the tequila tastings, he was so entertaining. And I don't know if he was making the stuff up or not, because I know nothing about this stuff. He could have totally been making all this stuff up, because he told the story about how the margarita was invented, about this lady that came into a bar, I think in San Diego, and she was allergic to like all kinds of alcohol except for tequila. And the bartender made her a drink that was based with tequila. And so she had it every night. And then the people around her started liking it. And so he had to name it. So he named it, her name was Marguerite or something. And so he named it the Margarita. And so everybody in the bar started liking it and drinking it. And so the margarita was born. He's like, but then after he told this story, because I went to this tasting twice. The second time he said, I might have made that story up. So he could have been totally lying. I don't know if he was or not, because he was kind of straight faced. He's totally probably lying. But I believed him the first time, and everybody that was at the tasting the first time around probably totally believes that's the story. I don't know. I got to research this now. But again, it's the same thing, right? It's the storytelling. But I mean, he was right when he told us the difference between like the silver and the añejo and the reposados. And I mean, when I go to the grocery store, I buy the cheap tequila if I'm going to buy a bottle. I've had one bottle in my pantry for probably 5 years and probably never finished it. I just have it for like if Scott comes over, if he's in town or something. I've never finished it. So that's how often I buy a bottle of tequila, and it's silver. I think that's the cheapest kind. So I listen and I pretend like when I get home, I'm going to know all this stuff. Like I got to get the one that's got kind of some of the gold looking color, because it's got what do they say, like almond in it or something. It's got a caramel color to it. I don't take any of that home, but when I'm there, I pretend like I know this stuff. So it's interesting. Anyway, Dennis continues. I can't wait to hear more about your cruise this week on the big show. Hope you enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun to talk about. Trisha says, up in Wisconsin, my daughter and I stalked the Discord chat for pictures from your cruise. We are both so excited for next year. Although we are first-time cruisers and not expecting to land much in the way of reservations, it was great to see so many free activities. As you mentioned, old game shows, no whammies. Trisha, you are going to be surprised how many things you probably can get, if not at the 75-day mark, when you get on the ship. Disney Cruise Line does hold back reservations for folks to book as soon as you get on the boat, on the Magic in our case. Just go exactly where you want to go. Go to the Port Adventures desk, go to the restaurant if you're looking for Palo, and they will have some availability. So just go straight there, be excited, and they work with you and they'll try to make it happen. We got Zoe in a bunch of stuff and she was not on anything when we got on. And finally, Deanna. I got to send a shout out to Deanna. We're going to talk about this in just a second. Deanna live tweeted her picture in our new channel in the Clubhouse and just killed it this week. So many great pictures. The chess matches that she posted were epic. I mean, those shots look serious. The chess matches, the 3-way chess matches. But we appreciate her taking the time. The tours, the safari tours. I loved it. I felt like I was like right on vacation with her family. And I was going to talk about this in a minute. Over in the Clubhouse, we added a channel. I think because Scott and I had such a good time. Scott, first of all, on his cruise over to Europe on Anthem. And then he put so much pressure on, I felt like I had to do it. I bought the internet on my cruise last week or a couple of weeks ago on Fantasy. And so it was just fun posting pictures like in real time, updates, videos, stuff like that in real time. So what I decided to do, because it was all kind of cluttering up that living room channel, because living room's kind of just to hang out. If you don't know where to post something, post it in the living room. That's where we post about life. If you just want to post about something, you don't know where to put it in the living room. So what I did was I added a channel, and it's for anybody that's live at a Disney destination. If you want to post a live tweet, live updates from your trip while you're there, you take over the channel. We could have multiple people doing it at the same time. We could have 5 people live updating their picture. We all love that stuff. Let's do it. So Deanna was the first one to take over the channel, and she knocked it out of the park with all these photos. So if you haven't seen it, go there over at again, beourguestpodcast.com/clubhouse. And she has so many amazing pictures. She has a lot of PhotoPass pictures too from her tour. They are great. So check that out. Thanks to Deanna for kicking it off. And we're going to have lots of folks taking over that channel. I think it's going to be one of our most popular channels, to be honest, because we all want those hits of right now at Walt Disney World or Disneyland or cruise. And I think this channel is going to be a great place to kind of to see daily. What are we, because people are always down there. So check it out. All right. And sorry, Deanna said, loved hearing the quick highlights from your cruise. Thank you so much for the kind words for our family and Hopper. It was heartwarming to hear. Yes. And we're so sorry again about Hopper, but I'm glad we could just all be family and love on each other. And I hope you're doing better with that. All right. So today's topic, I said a bunch of stuff. I'm already kind of going a little bit long, but so I was going to talk about, because the Olympics are starting this week, which I am a huge Olympics nerd. I think I've talked about this on the podcast before. I used to speed skate, inline speed skate. I didn't do ice, but I used to be an inline speed skater. And if you watch the video here, and I'll post this picture of my old uniform, but this was my last speed skating uniform when I went to nationals, that we designed. And I'm kind of proud of this uniform. What I think I'm going to do over the next, not like consecutive episodes, but the next few episodes, is pull out some old uniforms and tell stories that go with those uniforms, like an old baseball uniform, an old space camp uniform, and just tell some stories about those places that went with those uniforms. I have an old hockey uniform that I used to play for, went to nationals with that uniform. But this uniform was my last uniform that I wore in 1996. When I was trying to qualify, when there was a lot of talk that inline speed skating could become an Olympic sport. And this era had a lot of impact on the course of my life. Real quick. So I graduated high school in 1992. And so in 1992, I was a high school baseball player. I was a pitcher. And I went to, so I was also speed skating at the time. I was playing baseball, but I'd always wanted to, like, in my dreams, I'd always wanted to go to the Olympics. Like I'm, as you guys probably know from the show, from the history of, the last 16 years of the podcast, I'm very patriotic. And the one thing I would have always wanted to do was like walk in the Olympics, right? Like to represent my country, to wear the red, white, and blue in a uniform, or to carry the flag, something like that, especially in an athletic endeavor. I think nothing would be better. That'd be even better than being a professional athlete. Especially think back to, and if you're younger, I think it's hard to understand, but like think back to when the Olympics were amateurism, before professional athletes were allowed to compete. And this is the time that was. And so in the 90s, you had to have been there, I think. And some of you were, some of you weren't. But inline speed skating, and because rollerblading was the term back then, I mean, it was everywhere. This is when inline, like roller hockey, was just everywhere. It was on ESPN all the time. And you're thinking roller hockey was on ESPN? Yes, because they came to where I worked. We owned a skating rink. Remember, I managed a skating rink in St. Louis. And they came to our skating rink because we had a national champion roller hockey team at our skating rink. They came and got some guys, and they formed this pseudo professional inline hockey league. They took them all to Florida. They in like the course of like a week, they filmed an entire season of a hockey season. But then they played it out so it looked like it lasted 2 months on ESPN. but they played all the games in a week. It was like a big tournament for the people who played in it. Because some of my friends played. I didn't play in excess speed skating, but some of my friends did. And the team that went from our rink, they were called the Aztecs, the St. Louis Aztecs. And so they played all these games in a week, but then, they were all taped. And so it looked like these games played out over the course of 2 months on ESPN. So they had, a lot, they could sell commercials against it. Nobody knew. Everybody thought this was like a 2-month season. It wasn't. These guys were only there for a week. They just played and played and played and played and played. And so, I mean, remember, like, this was, if you watch like 90s TV, you'll see people inline skating, like Beverly Hills 90210. They're all inline skating. It was a huge deal. Well, anyway, there was a huge push to get speed skating, inline speed skating into the Olympics. But the deal was with our governing body for roller sports, which is based out of Lincoln, Nebraska, they said, if you're going to get inline speed skating, which was a huge worldwide sport at that time, you had to take all 3 disciplines. You had to take speed skating. That was not a problem. You had to take roller hockey. That was not a problem either. That sport was hot as fire, just like speed skating. But you also had to take the 3rd discipline, which was artistic skating, which is it's not quite figure skating. You have to see it to understand what it is. It's like on quad regular roller skates, and you kind of like trace lines as close as possible on a roller skating floor. Now, fun fact, Stacey Aswad, Stacey, Top 7 Stacey, that we all know and love from Resort TV, she's a national champion at that. She's a roller skating national champion at artistic skating, just so you know. But what happened was the Olympics wanted inline speed skating. They wanted roller hockey. They wanted nothing to do with artistic skating because it's not fun to watch necessarily, because it's basically just people tracing over these images on a floor. Now, inline speed skating, fun to watch. People get killed in that because people wipe out. It's like watching short track ice skating. It's hairy. It's crazy. I still have scars on my legs from 1996 up in Lincoln where I went flying over a wall. I mean, I'm 50 years old and I still have this big old scar on my leg. Roller hockey, I have fake teeth because of roller hockey. I mean, people love that stuff. And it was my own player that high stuck me. I mean, that stuff sells. Artistic skating, it doesn't sell as much. So nobody wanted to buy it. Anyway, so this was going to be my ticket, right? They did these things in 1994. Okay, so the Olympics was 96 was the Olympic year, Atlanta, right? 1994, they did these things, and you probably don't know about it, but it came to St. Louis. It was called the Olympic Festival. And what it was like a trial run of the Olympics. So in St. Louis, all over St. Louis, it was like a mini Olympics. They did all these sports that were on the borderline of making the Olympics. And all these people would come out and they ran them just like the Olympics. So in St. Louis, we have this place called Queenie Park, which is a St. Louis County park. And they set up and we raced at Queenie Park just like it would be an Olympic qualifying event. And I swore it was going to make it because it was run just like the Olympics, man. It was so cool. And we thought for sure. And the thing was, speed skating was done really well and it was well received. They sold tickets. It sold the venue out. I mean, it was a big venue and it sold out. Everything went well. Hockey sold out. Artistic actually sold out because people were just wanting to see everything. I think they added the ticket. I think you had to buy artistic to see the other 2 disciplines. I think is what they did. But they're smart. But like it was going somewhere. But what happened was it didn't get in the Olympics because eventually not enough countries wanted to buy into, not enough countries were going to support artistic skating. You have to have X amount of, like a certain percentage of all world countries have to adopt all 3 disciplines for all 3 to get in. And not enough countries accepted artistic. So you have to take all 3 or nobody gets in. So speed skating didn't get in, hockey didn't get in, and nothing got in. So I was super disappointed. Didn't get to do that. Not that I would have necessarily made it, but I was in the hunt. And speed skating was kind of fun because it's one of those things where you always pushed yourself. I love team sports. You guys probably know that. I'm a huge football fan. I loved baseball. I was a pitcher, and pitching was fun because It's very independent. The pitcher controls a lot of the game, right? You start every play. If you throw it right down the middle, it's on you, buddy. If you put it belt high down the middle of the plate, man, there's nobody to blame but yourself. And if you hit the corners, you're definitely helping your team. But it's a team sport. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got 8 guys behind you. It's a team sport. But with speed skating, for the most part, it was going to depend on how hard you worked. It's kind of like running. And by the way, in the 90s, I never ran. I hated running. I hated it. Ironic. But I did like the fact that I wanted to have a way to get to the Olympics. And this was like the newest sport. This was a shot at the Olympics. And when that went away, it was super sad. But anyway, growing up though, I did speed skate from the time I was like 6 or 7. And that was before inlines were ever even thought of. That was on the quad skates. I skated just for the little roller rink that we had. Again, my next door neighbors owned it, called Spinning Wheels. And eventually, all the way into college, this is where I ended up, was with this uniform, which I'll post in the Patreon Discord. And I helped, and I'm pretty proud of this uniform, because what it was, we took our team and the rival team. So our team was based out of Florissant, Missouri, which is where I grew up, in North St. Louis County, Missouri. And there was a rival team in Belleville, Illinois, which is over on the east side of St. Louis in Illinois. And we were like rival teams. But the ironic thing is, the person who owned our skating rink was best friends with the guy who owned the skating rink that was our rival over in Belleville. His name was Greg. And they were great competitors in speed skating. Ron was a national champion. Greg was also a national champion. Just 2 different age groups. But they were best friends. Because they always ran in the same circles, because they both owned skating rinks in St. Louis area. So, but our teams always were like rivals. We're like the Jets and the Sharks at competitions around the Midwest and around the Great Lakes. Well, eventually, like in the 90s, we came together and joined our teams so we could have like one super team. And we kind of that kind of helped get this going. And instead of having Fun Spots team and Spinning Wheels team, 2 different teams, we made our team the Gateway Inline Speed team. And that's what this team was born, with this uniform. And now you got to remember that when you look at this uniform, we used a computer to make this uniform in 1990. I guess this was made in this was probably developed, because I wore this in 95. I think I wore this in 94. So I bet you we developed this uniform in 1993. I bet you I made this uniform on a Commodore 64 using like CAD software on a Commodore 64. So when you look at this picture, which I'm going to post in the Patreon Discord, again, I'm going to tell you some of the symbolism. So it's got this sky. I took a picture of the skyline of St. Louis at the time. It's got the arch. It's got all the buildings, and it's accurate of all the buildings in downtown St. Louis. It's got the blue for the river, and it's looking over from Belleville, where the other team was. So it's from the perspective of our other team. So it's Belleville's perspective, looking back across the river where we were in Florissant. So to the Missouri side. Of course, we were all known as St. Louis. Everybody knows the arch. So when they saw us like in Atlanta or Denver, wherever we were skating, they would know like, oh yeah, we're from St. Louis. On the sleeves, it says GIST for Gateway Inline Speed Team. It's got the arch. And on the legs, it says St. Louis on one leg, because that was our metro area. And it says Gateway on the other, because we're Gateway to the West. But I'm still kind of proud of this uniform, because it was computer generated in 1993. Like everybody else's uniforms were still just like a couple of different colors, like chunks. And this was like one of the very first that had any kind. I mean, it's not sharp, but it was pretty cool for back in the day. And this was my last uniform that I wore at speed skating. And I don't think I could fit into it anymore. When you look at it, you're like, Mike, you wore that? Because it's a skin suit. It's like what the swimmers wear at the Olympics. But you had to wear this kind of suit, because you wanted to be, people shave their legs and stuff. To shave, I wasn't that fast, but this is what you wore. You wore that, you wore a helmet and your skates. That was it. And you went at it, and it was fun. But I'll post this in the Patreon. So that's about it. A couple other things I'm thinking about doing. Again, check out the Clubhouse for the live updates channel. If you're going to Disney, please update in that if you can, for the good of all of us. We just like seeing updated posts. And one other thing I was thinking about. So I was thinking about this last night. My dad, of course, owned a mobile DJ company, so he'd go out and do proms and weddings and stuff. Well, he also owns a photo booth company. So if you've ever been to like an event where they've had one of those photo booths where you go in and you can take pictures with like props, like the big funny glasses or boas and stuff like that. It like a wedding reception or retirement party, something like that. Well, my dad has a few of those and he takes them to parties and stuff. But he's also got a business where he goes out and he'll host events where he'll take a game show, like a Jeopardy thing to events and like do it's for like senior centers and stuff. But I think he also has a some software where we could do some events like in the clubhouse or here on, like we do for the live shows on Sunday nights where we could have select players and maybe like once a month instead of the Sunday night live call-in show, we could do a game show maybe do like a multiplayer like Jeopardy or like some kind of a game show. And I was wondering if that'd be something we might be interested in. So I thought I'd bring it to you guys. You're kind of like our executive board, our patrons. You guys are like the owners of the show. So I'm bringing it to you guys first. So just let me know, patreon.com/BRGS podcast. Would you like to do like a game show kind of thing? If I can see if my dad has the software that we can do that and I can see what's available. But in lieu of like one of the Sunday night shows, we do like the third Sunday night or something. We figure it out. But it just kind of came to me last night. Just trying to keep things fresh. It's been 16 years. I just want to keep things fun for you guys, for me, for everybody, so that we can I just want this to always be fun for everybody. I just want us to always have a good time with this. I appreciate you guys so much. All right. So I'm going to get out of here. Thanks for hanging with me. Glad my voice hung on for a little bit. So we'll be back in tonight. Scott will be with me. We'll be taking your calls and I hope you'll be here with us. We'll be talking Disney for an hour, taking all your calls. So make sure you give me a holler. All right. So until we talk again next Sunday, you guys have an awesome week. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you real soon.